Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Canned Air, your tribute to pop culture. I am Jeremy Colley, and we're bringing you an episode that we recorded back in June of 2022 with an actor, writer, and producer that you probably know from The Big Bang Theory, Flubber, Stand By Me, The Wil Wheaton Project, Ready Room, just to name a few, but he's probably best known for playing Wesley Crusher in Star Trek The Next Generation. We welcome Wil Wheaton to the show. And like I was saying, this is an episode that was recorded in June of 2022 and has been released since its recording in the audio format. Up until a few years ago, we were primarily an audio podcast, but decided, with changing times, it's probably better that we get ourselves on YouTube as well. And the thing is when we record a lot of these episodes, Zoom records the video, we would just log it away and use the audio. So kind of going back through some of our old files and finding videos of some of our conversations with amazing people and getting them out there. And that's exactly what this is. We welcomed Wil to talk about his book, Still Just A Geek, and got to talk to him not only about that, but so many other things. It was a great conversation. Excited for you guys to see it. But don't forget to find us on our socials and on our website, all listed here on the screen. And look us up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or anywhere really that you get podcasts. And check out our catalog. It goes all the way back to 2013. Like I was just saying a little bit ago, it's only been the last few years we're putting a lot of attention into our YouTube. Our audio catalog goes way back with so many more great guests just like Wil. So be sure to check that out. And without any further ado, here's our conversation with Wil Wheaton. Thanks so much, Wil, for taking time to be on the show here with us today. It's really an honor to be talking with you.
Thank you.
And I got to say, I'm kind of fixated on everything that's happening behind you. What's going on back there, man?
So directly behind me is the Arcade 1-Up Tron machine that my son Ryan and I assembled a few months ago.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yep. It's just kind of there is a version of me who pokes his head up in my brain every day and says, "Can you believe we own arcade machines?" Right?
Yeah, who would have thought?
Whenever we want to. And I'm like, buddy, we're doing that because we worked real hard for it. And every time we're ready to give up, you didn't. So that's the Tron machine that Ryan and I built. Then next to it is a multi-arcade machine. Think of it as a very fancy MAME cabinet. Okay. Awesome. That has a ton of games in it. And then over my other shoulder is just a little bit of my game library.
A little bit?
Yeah. Which I have organized by color because I thought that would be really fun. So it's sort of here. I'll just show you. So it kind of goes like that.
Oh, right? Wow.
That is awesome.
Isn't that neat? And then the other side of the room isn't really cleaned up. I've been doing all this press and every day I'm like, all right, I'm going to put that stuff away and get those things cleaned up and put away and stuff. And I'm like, but I've just done 6 hours of interviews. I'm going to play video games.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten quite around.
I know exactly what that's
like. Anyway, thank you for noticing. I make an effort every day, and I do this deliberately every night before I go to sleep, to be grateful for the things that I have in my life. And I run down this list of things in my head that these are the things that I am grateful for. So I remember to be thankful and exist in gratitude. And one of the things that I am constantly grateful for is that I have arcade machines and tabletop games.
Because who would have ever guessed?
And a game room that is just for fun.
I've seen you mention your tabletop game collection and other interviews and stuff like that. Are there any holy grails or any gems you're on the lookout for? Or?
There's an original Dark Tower.
Okay.
Up there on top of my Star Trek: The Next Generation Collector's Edition Monopoly set. And then down the shelves from that a little ways is a special edition of Takanoko. That is a massive box. The panda in Takanoko is about that big.
Oh wow!
It's a beautiful they only made a few of them, but it's signed by Antoine Bauza, which if you're a game nerd is kind of awesome. The two things that I have that I absolutely cherish and love more than anything else are my original D&D Red Basic Rules book
Okay.
And I have a D&D white box with the 3 original books in it, and it was given to me as a gift from a person who I don't know if he ever said, you can say I gave this to you, but a dude who you would be like, what? Gave me this, and it was his. And he was like, I just know how much you love D&D, and I feel like you should have this. So those are the things that I'm really, really grateful for and really love.
Awesome.
Nice. Wow, now you've got me even more curious. I've seen online about the Wil Wheaton dice curse. Is this something that still looms over you? Yeah,
I was at a convention this weekend. For those who don't know, when you roll a 20-sided die, you have a 5% chance that you'll land on any number, which means that it should be an even Gaussian distribution of numbers as you roll them. I roll so statistically improbably poorly that it's become almost a trope. I don't know why. When things are left to random chance, especially as it pertains to dice, particularly as it pertains to the 20-sided die, I roll like ass. And I know that it's just, there's no logic to it. There's no pattern to it. It's just random chance. It's just statistically unlikely, yet it continues happening to me. So I have made the following choice. The universe that we exist in needs to be balanced, right? Like whenever someone goes into the land of the lost, someone comes out of the land of the lost, so that the continuum is maintained, right? So when extraordinary bad luck is put into the world, for somewhere, extraordinary good luck also happens and vice versa. So when I roll a crit fail in a game, that means that somewhere else in the world, somebody who desperately needed that critical success got it, and I took the hit for them. I have as much evidence to support that as I have literally any other theory about why I roll dice so poorly. That is the one I choose to believe in. When I go to cons, people will ask me if I will curse their dice, and I have to have them. And what I always say is, do you fully understand what you are asking? And they never do. And I'm like, do you understand that the curse doesn't attach itself to the dice? The curse attaches itself to the person. Mm-hmm. So like, I'm going to roll these dice for you, and they're going to roll like crap. And you're going to think it's funny, and you're going to go home, and you're not going to put them in the northeastern corner of a room where the sun never shines, surrounded by a circle of salt, as I am advising you. You aren't going to do that. And what's going to happen is you're going to wonder why all of a sudden you're not rolling well, and you're going to blame it on me. So I want you to fully understand and affirm back to me vocally that you know what you are asking me to do, and that you release me from all liability. And they always do, and they are always horrified, and they can never believe it when it happens. At this, I was at a con last weekend, and a couple of folks asked me to roll their dice, and I will tell them, now listen, there's a great chance that right now, because it absolutely doesn't mean anything at all, that I'm going to like roll like a boss. Like I'm just going to crush everything. Just like, right? That's one of the ways the curse expresses itself. So don't get ahead and don't get all excited and think, oh, there's no curse. So I said this to a guy and rolled a 19. And he was like, what? And I was like, I know, it doesn't mean anything. The guy behind him was like, will you curse my dice? Sure. I rolled a 20. The girl behind him was like, will you curse my dice? I sure will. And I rolled another 20. And I was like, okay, so what is happening is all the good rolls are getting used up right now. So that when I roll again, they aren't there. That's how this works. One of the really fun things that I really love is when someone's like, will you curse these dice? And I tell them if I touch them, they're ruined forever. And they have told me, this has happened more than once. I know. I'm counting on it. These dice belong to my dungeon master, and I out of their bag in the hopes that it would wreck their everything. I'm like, all right, well, I feel like you've just made me an accessory to a crime.
Sign this release.
All right. Express to me vocally that you release me from all liability.
Yeah. That's incredible, man. And for people at home who think like, oh, that's exaggeration or something. No, get online. There's a YouTube video where you can watch this curse afflict Will.
An actuary did a table. A legitimate actuary did a table and showed like the expected results from an average dice roller and my actual results. So they were like, yeah, this is crazy. This person would never get insured.
Oh, that's great. I mean, for us, not so much for you. Yeah. It's funny to talk about. But.
So here's the thing, though. It brings us so much joy to so many people, and like ultimately, playing the game is about spending time with friends and telling a story together. So if my character just can't get it done, I get to narrate why. When I did it on Critical Role, it took me a while to kind of like put it all together because I was kind of shell shocked from how poorly I rolled in that entire thing. But I realized in retrospect, oh wait, I'm like sort of like, I'm this like kind of belligerent dwarven barbarian dude. He couldn't do anything because he was just epically hungover. Like that's why he was
totally makes sense then.
It makes all kinds of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is a thing when I've had the privilege sometimes of speaking to people sort of about like in depth about role playing, right? Like let's have a big deep dive into bringing people into the hobby and what do you do once you're there, blah, 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 blah. What I always tell people is like, the thing that's amazing about it is it's really collaborative storytelling. And when things don't go the way you want them to go, awesome. Narrate how it went because it makes those times when you nail it so much cooler, right? Like you got to go in and out of things. You have to have the setbacks for the triumphs to matter. Otherwise, it just becomes competency porn, and that is boring.
Good point, though. Good way to look at it. I'd be sulking in the corner for sure if it was me. But anyway, let's talk about your book, man. Still Just a Geek. Great read, man. And in this book, you revisit your and comment on your 2004 memoir, Just a Geek, where you talk about your struggles with abuse and undiagnosed depression while being forced to be in the Hollywood spotlight. Can you tell us a bit about the book and just how it came to be?
Yeah. In 2000, I started a blog. And just for a bit of context, in 2000, social media didn't exist. YouTube was about 4 years away from existing. High-speed internet barely existed. And at high speed, it was 56K. It is, you can't imagine how slow that is now, but back then it was a miracle. Right. And if you were going to have a presence online, if you were going to put anything out there at all, it was going to be words because full motion video was incredibly expensive and extremely difficult to do. And words were the way that we did it. So I had to teach myself from absolute zero how to build a website, which meant I had to learn HTML and I had to learn a little bit of CSS. I had to learn how to use tables. I had to learn all this stuff that I didn't want to know so that I could have a place to publish the things that I wanted to write. I've compared it to people, those of us who had websites in the aughts, we were systems administrators and like web guys, the way that people who owned classic cars in the 70s and 80s had to be mechanics, even if they had no interest in mechanics at all. It's just like, you got to fix it because things break all the time.
Sure.
So I started writing a blog, and it was new and it was novel and it got a little bit of attention. And I just started telling stories, right? I was writing about being at the time a stepfather. I'm a full dad. My kids asked me to adopt them when they came of age, but at the time I was their stepdad, and I was a relatively new husband, and I was new to having a family. And I was just talking about those experiences, and I had these experiences of like working on Star Trek and being an actor, and I just talked about those a little bit. After a while, I'd written so much stuff that I got a bunch of pressure to do a book. So I collected some of those things, and I turned some of those blog posts, and I turned them into a book, and that was published in 2004, and it's called Just a Geek. And it's very much the story of starting my blog and kind of coming to terms with where Star Trek lives in my life and what my relationship to Wesley Crusher is, and how I am, at the moment I wrote that book, really thinking about leaving acting maybe behind and becoming more of a writer full time. The book was published and fives of people read it and everybody forgot about it and life went on. A couple of years ago, I had written a novella and gave it to my agent and we just shopped it. And no one was interested in it with the exception of one editor who said, listen, this story that you have is a great story. It's missing pieces. That conversation isn't important to this, but he ultimately said, hey, listen, I loved your book, Just a Geek. Have you looked at it recently? And I said, no, I haven't. And he said, I have. And he said, I think there are things in there, knowing what I know about you now, there are things in that book that I think you will want to revisit. There are things that I think are kind of gross, but I also see these areas where he said to me, I know that you've been really open and outspoken about being living with depression and post-traumatic stress disorder and surviving childhood abuse. He said, I see all these areas in this book where like, that's a big part of your story that you didn't tell when you wrote this 20 years ago. Do you want to tell that now? And I thought, yeah, I actually really do. And I looked back at it and thought the very best way to do all of it was to annotate it. So if you can imagine that I am looking at my book and reading the book I wrote in 2004, and then every now and then stopping and looking up to you and saying, okay, now let's just talk about this a little bit. Here's stuff that I did not realize was going on then. I can't believe I thought that this thing where I'm punching down was okay. I'm just like an edgelord try hard here and it's embarrassing, those things. That's the first half of the book. The second half of the book are notable speeches and essays that I have written over the last few years about everything from being part of the Star Trek universe to my wife almost dying because she was misdiagnosed by a lazy doctor, to living with mental illness, and acknowledging and speaking up loudly and unashamedly all of the child abuse that I endured. The big, giant, massive lie of my entire life that I struggled with forever until I finally went, no, my truth is true, was that my mom made me believe that I wanted to be an actor when I was 7 years old. And even if I said, I really want to do this at 7, I know that very shortly thereafter, I said, I don't want to do this. And she was like, no, you have to. I know that my mom was taking me to the unemployment office to file unemployment claims to support the family. And my right-wing talk radio dad openly mocked and disdained people who got unemployment. And like, I was around that all the time. And I grew up in a house where I was not loved unconditionally. And I was just kept saying, I don't want to do this. And they kept making me do it. And then when I finally booked Star Trek and I thought, okay, this is going to be the thing that makes Dad love me. This will be the reason Dad finally cares about me. This will be the thing that makes Mom happy, so she stops making me responsible for her emotions and feelings. Like, this is going to solve everything. I'm going to be on this show. I'm not going to have to audition anymore. I'm going to get to do this full time, and everything's going to be great. And of course it wasn't, because nothing is going to fix the fact that my parents are narcissists and my dad's a piece of shit. Then toxic fandom came after me. Mm. And that toxic fandom was so hurtful and so cruel and so relentless, and nobody stood up for me. Just nobody ever stood up for me. One time, and it really mattered, and it was extremely important, and I value it greatly, Gene Roddenberry stood up for me. And I really greatly appreciate it, right? That's in the book. He also stood up for me at a con once where someone was like giving him a hard time about Wesley. And he was like, I think Wesley's great. And if you don't like him, don't watch my show. Like, okay, awesome.
Wow.
That is great. But when all of fandom, as far as I know, is coming at me with, we hate the character, we hate you, you're awful, you're ruining this show, all of those things, that's all landing on a 14 and 15 and 16-year-old who has been emotionally abused his entire life. My father's physical abuse started around that time. That was when he really started getting really physical with me and like shoving me. His favorite thing to do was like jab me in my sternum with his finger while he yelled at me. More than once, he picked me up by my neck and shook me back and forth, just like all of that was going on at all that time. And now all these people that I've never met are telling me that I'm the worst thing in the world. What has my experience been to that point in my life? I guess I only have value in this world if I'm a famous actor, because that's what I'm getting from Mom. Nothing I do is good enough for anybody at all, and I should just shut up and die, according to Dad. And now here comes fandom to just be like, we hate Wesley and we hate you. It was so hard. It hurt so much. Yeah. And on top of it all, I was just a kid, and I was such a huge fan of all of it. I loved Star Trek. I loved being part of it. It was amazing. And like all of that got in the way.
Sure. Right.
And it was allowed to get in the way because it started in my home. If it had not started in my home, it would have been really different. It'd be a whole different story, you know? I probably would have stayed on the show longer than I did and would have grown up to be a really different person. But as we say, in Next Generation, in Tapestry, as Wesley says in Picard, about the universe being an exquisite tapestry, you cannot pluck a single thread or the whole thing comes unraveled. A big part of writing Still Just a Geek and then narrating it for the audiobook was very much providing for myself the healing and the validation and the growth that was withheld from me because I just didn't really have any support until I was married and realized my kids deserve a dad.
Right.
Oh my God, I never learned how to be a dad because I didn't have a dad. I had a bully. Well, I better learn how to be a dad, and I better learn how to do it real fast. And it was through that I realized, wow, like I walked into my kitchen one night and I told my wife, I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen soon. I'm going to have to sit down and have a real hard, like from the depths of my soul, cry because I have accepted that my dad doesn't love me and my dad doesn't even like me. And then I had the cry right away. Mm-hmm. I can talk about it now with sort of a little bit of a detachment because I've just come to accept it. It's just part of my life.
Right. Sure.
But it sucks. It still sucks. I ended contact with them around 6 years ago. And I'm really sad to say that it made all the difference.
Sure.
It really allowed me to become me instead of the scapegoat in their dysfunctional family.
Right. Not the road you wanted to take, but have to take. And understandable, man. Listening to the audiobook, you can really hear the journey you're going on with your younger self. I mean, there's times where you stop hard to cringe. There's times where you seem to get choked up to the point where you have to get away from the microphone. Then there's other times you're laughing, remembering fondly. I can't imagine this writing process was anywhere close to easy.
It was really hard. In the text in the afterword, I write that I'm done with this now. I've been working on it for a very long time. I've had to take months away from it because parts of it were really difficult. I really hoped that I would feel a catharsis. I don't. I only feel re-traumatized. And I didn't know why that was. Then I went into the studio and recorded the audiobook. And when the audiobook was done, I had discovered the catharsis. And I don't know what physically happens. I don't know what existentially happens. I live in this weird twilight area where like I do not believe in a single supernatural thing. I'm incredibly disdainful of supernatural things. I don't believe in superstitions. I love science. And if it can't be tested and proved in a lab, I don't want to know about it. At the same time, I am a storyteller, and storytelling involves myth, and myth involves archetypes, and it involves imagination and symbolism and all of those things. So, when I spoke all of the things I wrote down, it released anger and pain and fear and anxiety that I had been carrying around for a really long time. I don't know how this works. I don't know why it works, but I felt like I was giving a voice to every person I ever was who was silenced, either by my incredibly manipulative, deeply selfish mother, or by my bully father, or by an industry that really just kind of wanted to take as much away from me as it possibly could. People talk a lot, as I've been promoting this, and I've been talking about this a lot, people talk about surviving Hollywood, and I want to be really clear, like, Hollywood's not inherently bad. The entertainment industry is not inherently toxic. Like, there's plenty of kids that work in the industry with wonderful, loving parents and deeply loving families who go on to have amazing adult lives. I had shitty parents who put me into a place where shitty people take advantage of unprotected kids. As I wrote in the book, they were real fine with my sister and me being physically abused on the set of a movie. They just let that happen and didn't seem to have any problem with it at all. But I am really grateful that I did have some very good, close friends who were older than me. I had some adults who were looking out for me. I had gaming in my life, and I was a nerd. So I was never at parties where predators were. I was never at clubs where access to like alcohol and drugs was really given to kids. I avoided all of that. And the thing is, I was in so much existential pain. I talked about this on TV. I was in so much existential pain. I was so sad. I was hurting all the time. I was so lonely. I contemplated taking my own life many times. And I'm really grateful that there were just a handful of adults that I trusted, who were there, who I could lean on, who I never told any of this to. I kept it all to myself, but just by being there, they kind of saved me.
So is this, I mean, you're obviously not going to get rid of all the demons that, your past has, given you, but
yeah.
Would you say this has been therapeutic though? I mean, it seems like you're in a much better place than you were before you wrote this book.
It's interesting. So demons is an interesting word to use. I
guess I'd say demon too, because
I don't know where it originated, but this mythological idea that if you know a demon's name, it cannot harm you. If you know a demon's name, it has to leave if you tell it to leave.
Mm-hmm.
A big part of this process has been not just recognizing who the demons are, but naming them. And the more clearly I can name them, the more thoroughly I have been able to banish them. There's some that are still around. I have worked very, very, very hard, deliberately, mindfully, with like extreme intention to stay very much in like a middle path and stay away from the extremes of like, I'm going to run away because I'm terrified, or I'm going to fucking murder you. Like, those are the two extremes that trauma survivors tend to exist in. We tend to, our fight, flight, freeze response and our fawn responses are hyper attuned, and it's like I created this demon. There's another thing in demonology where you can summon a demon, right?
Right.
And the demon's going to do what you want it to do, but it's going to extract a price that is so terrible you cannot comprehend what that price is. And whatever you however you think you can pay the price, it is going to exact such a toll from you. It's probably not worth summoning the demon. When I was a little kid, I summoned a demon to protect me, right? The closest I can come to is in Japanese mythology. There's a character called I always say it wrong, Onryo, which is this vengeful spirit that tends to rise up out of someone who has been terribly, savagely wronged, and they are just insatiable. They destroy everything, and I created this vengeful spirit inside of me to like fight back when people were attacking me. And unfortunately, that demon would just sometimes start fighting on its own, and I would lose control of it. And I had to work really, really, really hard to identify it, recognize why it was created, and then tell it as part of this long therapeutic process, listen, I am really grateful that you were there for me when I needed you, but I don't need you anymore. Those people won't hurt me like they used to. And you did everything that I needed you to do, and I release you, and I let you go. That sounds really easy. It took a couple of years for all of that to happen, with moments of me just blowing up at completely innocent people for no good reason. Because like that was that demon like asserting itself, like that person upset me, that person wronged me. So like the only way that I can respond is to either freeze, flee, or tear their head off. And I never really knew what was going to happen. And it's, as I understand it, that is real common among trauma survivors. That sense of like, oh, I'm out of control. And like every one of these responses that I have, it accomplishes what I need, which is get me out of this situation. But it always leaves me feeling terrible when it's over. I need to work through all of that. So a big thing for me was identifying the demons, naming the different demons, and like telling them, I see you, and go, leave now. I dispel you. And it turns out that learning those, like to keep the metaphor going, learning those spells and acquiring the components to cast them is an extraordinary amount of work. Hard work, but work that's very much worth doing.
That's so awesome, though, to see. I mean, you look seemingly very happy. I mean, I don't know you, obviously, but I mean, I've been going through the book the past week and a half, and I don't know. It's just an incredible journey. So I want to say congratulations to you, but I don't know if that's the right word or not.
I think it's a fine word. I'm really grateful that I got to tell my story.
Yeah,
I'm really grateful that the little boy who was so terrified and so alone and so just abandoned finally got to speak up and say, like, this was never okay.
Right.
And as I expected, when my story made it back to my parents, my dad couldn't be bothered to comment on it at all. And my mom said she was shocked and had no idea, which is really common from narcissists, and real common from people who tell themselves gigantic lies, because if the gigantic lie falls apart, everything you built on top of it falls apart too. Right. So like, I do not forgive them. But I don't need them. I kind of like let them go. Right. I feel like really, really grateful that this thing that has hurt me my whole life is just out. It's not in me anymore. I am not carrying my father's rage and shame. I am not carrying my mother's lie. I'm living my life. I'm Ryan and Nolan's dad. I'm Anne's husband. Like, that's who I want to be. Right. And that's the person who wrote this book. And that's the person I get to be when I get to work on whatever the next one is.
Right. Well, it's a damn good book, and I encourage people to check it out. And there was a few other things from the book that I wanted to ask you about. Just about, for instance, the first one was you said on the set of Stand By Me that you and everyone else there could feel that you guys were really making something special here.
Yeah.
And what was it exactly that was happening? What were you feeling around you that gave you guys that feeling?
I don't know. It's just something in the air. I don't even know what to compare it to. Everyone on the crew, Rob, the writers, Andy, the producer, everyone that I interacted with, there was a calm, gentle kindness about them that made me feel like I already believed that no one would bother making a movie if it wasn't going to be a good movie. I didn't understand that. I was only 12. I didn't understand what that meant. I just thought, well, if someone's going to go and make a movie, and if Rob Reiner, who's famous from TV, movie, like it's going to be a good movie. And I was like I said, I was only 12, but I loved the script. I read a script about kids being friends and showing up for each other. I didn't understand any of the other parts of the script that are super clear to me as an adult. And I was just really excited to be there. Rob made me feel like he was constantly proud of me. And he made sure I knew that. No man in my life had ever made that effort with me. Not my father, not my grandfather, none of my uncles, nobody ever made an effort to make me feel special.
Sure.
And worthy. Rob made me feel special and worthy. And I've talked a lot about how I felt like we were making something really special. We were making something beautiful and meaningful. And I wonder if what I actually mean when I say that is that I felt special when we were making the movie. I felt like I was making something that was special because Rob made me feel special for being part of it. And that was something I had never experienced in my life to that point. So I wish there was one thing that I could be like, well, on this day of production, we all knew. And it's just like, you just don't,
Right.
It makes total sense, though. I mean, just good feeling from one person just carries you through the whole thing.
Yeah. Had there been like one toxic person on set, it probably could have dragged everybody down and the whole experience down. Yeah.
Jerry O'Connell tells, Jerry's story is that Kiefer Sutherland scared him to death.
He still scares me to death for that movie.
It's so funny to me because he didn't scare me at all. There was nothing scary about him. There was nothing scary about any of the big kids. They were just big kids. They were adults. Right. They were fun. They were friendly. I knew that Kiefer's character was mean, but I knew he wasn't mean. I don't know why it was different for me. I just didn't feel any of that stuff on the set, except really from Corey. Corey bullied me a lot.
Really?
Yeah. I forgive Corey for that. I sincerely 100% forgive him. Corey was in so much pain. As bad as my life was, Corey's was so much worse.
Right.
And as bad as my parents were, his were so much worse. And it sucked at the time. I didn't like him when we did the movie. But I've let it all go. I really see very, very clearly what was going on. And I've had to do this stuff as part of my PTSD recovery where I create in my head this like bifurcation of who I am now and who I was then. And then there's this time where when I work through these traumatic memories, one of the ways that I sort of get through the trauma is to remap my brain and like put adult me there to help child me, and like stand up in ways that I couldn't stand up and protect myself in ways that I wasn't protected. I want to do the same thing for young Corey.
Yeah.
because I just very clearly see all of it. And I see where, there's this line in Stand By Me where Chris says, kids lose everything if there isn't someone there to look out for them. And it's deeply prophetic.
Right. Incredible. Another thing you talk about in your book is, how for many years there, you wanted to distance yourself from Star Trek.
Yeah.
You didn't want to be on the show. You didn't want to really just be affiliated with it at all. And it was at least one of the things that was start bringing you back around was the Star Trek experience in Las Vegas. And I'm curious if it was simply just walking onto a bridge that looked like where you used to work, or was there more to it than that? What were you experiencing that day?
It was that. It was walking into, it was, so at that moment in my life, let's see, I was 29 when we did that. And I was 8 years out, not a long time, like about a third of my life out from having left Star Trek and having struggled like crazy from day one. And not really understanding why I was struggling. I mean, it's really obvious to me now I was struggling because it's never something I wanted to do, so I wasn't fully committed to it.
Right.
And it was traumatic for me every single time I did anything related to acting. And it was just so unbelievably hard. I wanted to get away from that toxic fandom the same way I wanted to get away from my dad, but I had kind of conflated them into one thing and just put it all in toxic fandom. I had just taken everything, all of the pain that my parents caused for me and let toxic fandom become the avatar for all of that. Then when I had that opportunity to go work in a feature film and it wasn't going to affect Star Trek in any way at all, it was just a thing for me to like give me another piece of my career, and Rick Berman deliberately sabotaged it. I just felt like this was supposed to solve everything. Star Trek was supposed to fix all of it. It was supposed to be like this terrific change from everything I've always experienced. And this guy's treating me exactly the same way my parents do. Well, fuck everything about that. I quit. And I did. And I didn't have a lot of counsel about that. I didn't have people I could talk to who had credibility with me, who could give me good advice. I wasn't in a place where I could receive good advice. And I had very much been infantilized and just kind of kept helpless by my mom. So when I walked onto that stage, when I walked onto that set at Star Trek The Experience, as I wrote in the book, I wasn't expecting it to be what it was. I thought it was going to be a motion simulator ride.
Right.
The closest thing that I can describe that will maybe give someone who is not me a sense of the emotional impact of that moment is, imagine that you step through, you go to a place expecting a show. And when you open the door, wait a minute, this is my high school and it's exactly the way I left it. Nothing has changed. All the same people are here. I've changed, but it is exactly the same. And I get to look at it with an entirely fresh set of eyes. That's what that was like for me. Mm-hmm. And that moment, as I wrote in the book, was when I realized I don't hate Star Trek. I love Star Trek. I don't hate Wesley. I love Wesley. I hate all this other stuff. And all that other stuff was so traumatic and so painful that it overwhelmed the things that I loved, and it overwhelmed the good, and it overwhelmed me.
Right.
Being in there, remembering all of the things I had forgotten was extraordinarily consequential for me, and something I am so grateful I got to experience.
Exactly. Yeah. How cool. I am sorry we blew past 40 minutes. Can we ask you a couple more questions, or do you need to go?
Yeah. No, it's fine. Go ahead.
All right, cool. You just mentioned, Wesley Crusher. Excuse me, let me start that again. You mentioned Wesley Crusher being on Picard, showing up in the last episode of season 2. What was it like to step back into Wesley's shoes?
It was awesome.
Yeah, it looked like you were having a good time.
Boy, spoilers.
Well, you've had your chance, man.
It was great. I got to be the Wesley I love.
Right.
After all that time of being somebody else's Wesley, that was my Wesley. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
He was to Corey in that scene who I really wanted him to be for me.
Sure.
He was for Corey in that scene who I try to be for anyone who ever needs me to show up for them. And I loved it. I loved that the way they wrote him and the way they allowed me to play him was so wise and peaceful and calm and gentle. Like, that is the person I want to be. Like, I want to be him so badly. And that is the person I try so hard to constantly be. And that is the person who kind of shows up for me and is like, dude, you got really worked up today about a thing. And I'm like, I know it's a trauma response. I have to I got it. That's something I need to work on. But that part of me, the Wesley part of me, Wesley, the traveler part of me is like, we all fuck up, man. It's okay. I'm here for you. It's going to be all right. All of space and time to do all of this together. And more than anything else, Wesley Crusher belongs to me again.
Right.
For a really long time, Wesley Crusher belonged to alt.wesley. And that sucked. For a really long time, I felt like I had to constantly defend Wesley from people who were never going to be happy with whatever his defense was, which was exactly my relationship with the man who was my father. This Wesley and the existence of this Wesley, let me take it all back and let me have complete ownership over him again and go forward for the rest of my life, sharing the celebration of his return that took me by such delightful, incredible surprise when that episode aired.
Right. How cool, man. Congratulations. I hope we see more of you too. I want to see more Wesley.
I was hoping that he would show up.
I mean, I joke about it with the with the writers for all the shows, right? Like, everybody knows. I'm like, if you need somebody who can travel through all of space and time, I know a guy. I'd be happy to make use of that. I have lots of ideas, fun fan fiction ideas that I've actually written just because it's fun for me to write them. They've been really satisfying to write. Feels really, really good to have exercised and completely purged any of the residual lingering, I'm just going to call it gross feelings that ever existed toward Wesley from me. He didn't deserve those feelings any more than I deserved the way people treated me back then.
Right.
It's also been really great, 50-year-old father of two 30-year-olds. It's right. It's really awesome to meet young people who are like, I watched Next Gen with my parents. And when I say young people, I mean people in their late 30s who are like, I watched Next Gen with my parents. And we, I just loved it. And I wanted to be like Wesley. I thought he was great. I thought he was really smart and really cool. And then I meet people who are just like, they're so excited that Wesley was back in Picard and back the way he was, right? To feel celebrated, to feel that kind of love. And to finally understand that for every cruel, toxic fanboy who was awful to me, there were like 60 kids who were just like, I love this. I am a lifelong Star Trek fan because of this character. When I was a kid, I would go to cons, and sometimes I got to sit next to Jimmy Doohan. And every time I sat next to Jimmy, dozens of people told him, I'm an engineer because of you. I work for NASA because of you. I work for Rockwell because of you. I work for blah, blah because of you. And I thought, gosh, that has got to be the coolest thing. Never occurred to me that people would say that about Wesley. And it happens every time I go to a con now. I mean,
that's incredible.
Somebody who does a job that I think is the coolest freaking job in the world. And they do it, if not specifically because of Wesley, they do it because of Star Trek. And just the privilege of being part of that, the privilege of being like, I get to be the guy who played Wesley Crusher. Like, Wesley doesn't exist without me. I get to own that. That's cool. I love that. And I'm so happy and I am so grateful that I was given the opportunities that I needed to take all of that back and put my arms around it and love it and protect it and keep it alive in a way that's really positive and wonderful, instead of letting it be anything else. But the worst thing of all would have been to just leave it as like a painful memory.
Sure.
Yeah.
One final question. So being a lifelong nerd, what has been your, what have you enjoyed the most about sharing with Ryan and Nolan as far as like pop culture and stuff like that?
My favorite thing that I've shared with Ryan was a punk show. I took him to see Reverend Horton Heat.
Oh, wow.
X with the original lineup, and the Damned, who played all of Machine Gun Etiquette, start to finish. And then Captain Sensible played Jet Boy, Jet Girl, with my freaking mind. My kids grew up listening to punk rock with me. Like, that's just, they love it because that's what they grew up around, right? Like, that's the soundtrack of their childhood. If you ask them, they would be like, all Dad listened to was the Pixies and Bad Religion and, you know, stuff. So getting to share that with him was extremely meaningful for me. It's not necessarily a nerd thing like going to Comic-Con or going to space camp or something like that. But I've always said being a nerd is not about the way you love. It's not about the thing you love. It's about the way you love the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Passion.
That's something that I really deeply, massively, incredibly love is punk rock and Southern California punk rock specifically. And getting to share that with him and just seeing him like love being at a punk show was really, really special for me. Nolan he doesn't really love the same kinds of nerd things that I love. Nolan doesn't really love science fiction like I do. And he doesn't really love gaming like I do. But when he was in high school, my friend Cory Doctorow wrote a book called Little Brother that I loved. It was anti-authoritarian and it was pro-critical thinking, and it was just a really, really great way to introduce a young person to the concept of do not trust authority because it demands it.
Right.
And I gave that to him, and I was like, and Nolan didn't like to read. And I was just like, Nolan, he would have been in like 8th grade when that book came out. When he was in 7th grade, he didn't want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And we were like, you don't have to. And the teacher called and was ready for us. She was like, well, Nolan won't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And we were like, okay. And is there anything else? And she was beside herself. She could not believe that he was, what did she say, that he was being defiant or something or other. My wife said he's expressing his fundamental rights as a human to not participate in a ritual that he does not agree with. And she said, what does he not agree with? And Nolan said, I really have a problem with you making me pledge allegiance to a nation under God because I don't believe in that. Wow. And we were like, you can't force him. He gets to make his own choices. And I said, like, if you're taking a principled stand and you're not doing this for the purposes of being disruptive, I really support this. And he was like, I just don't think it's right. And, you've talked about how public school is not where religion belongs. It's interesting because as an adult, Nolan has actually found a religious faith that he actually really loves that's deeply meaningful to him. But like that particular version of it was just he didn't fly with him at all. So I knew that he was maybe primed a little bit for a book that was kind of about just like not going along to get along.
Sure.
And I gave it to him. And he read that cover to cover until he finished it. Like he just never stopped reading it. And then I heard him for months tell his friends about it, about how smart it was and how great it was and how it like made him think and all that stuff. And I really enjoyed that.
What a cool feeling as a dad. That's awesome.
one of the really great things that's kept our family together. We worked very hard to be a family. The kid's biological father is a monster and was just so disruptive to our lives and manipulative with them. And it was more important to him that he use the kids, weaponize the kids to disrupt our lives and hurt their mom than it was to be a good dad for his kids.
That's horrible.
And it sucked and it was petty and he's a piece of shit. And it was just really hard for all of us. And one of the ways we found peace and one of the ways that we found safety and one of the places we could come together as a family was playing tabletop games at our dining room table. And that would have been back in those days, Apples to Apples, Gold Digger, probably Sorry, the VHS version of Trivial Pursuit. Those were
yes.
And then when they were old enough, I introduced them to D&D, and Nolan loved it, and Ryan didn't. But when the family gets together now, we will play. They were just here. The kids were just out here for the first time since the pandemic. So that we had the whole family together, and we played Ticket to Ride and Sushi Go, basically until our hands fell off. So like of all the nerdy things that like have been woven into the fabric of Team Wheaton, gaming really is a thing that we always come back to. It is a place where we were really safe and really protected when our lives were very much under siege. And now it is a way for us to celebrate what we accomplished, what we survived, and what we built by working together.
That's so cool.
Thank you so much for taking time to be here and talk about the book, talk about some of your life. It's just been a blast. Thank you. Yeah,
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you. And thank you for giving me your time. And thanks for spending time with my book. That means a lot to me.
It's been a great read. Actually, it was an audiobook, but can I still say I read it? Or do I have to?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm qualified to say, yes, you are allowed to call it that.
Finally got that question answered.
Wil Wheaton talked to me in my ear the whole book.
He's the aficionado. So, all right, Will. Thank you so much.
All right. Be well, boys. See ya.
Have a good
Bye.
night. All right, everyone, and once again, that was our conversation with Wil Wheaton. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. I'm sorry for the backdrop in the video. Again, this was at a time where we were recording the video, but we were not ever really planning to release it, just releasing the audio. So the backgrounds aren't like they are today, where we put a little time and thought into them. You're just looking at us sitting frumpy in a room. But all the same, I think we got a great conversation with Will. But with all that said, I want to once again thank Will for being on the show, and I want to remind everyone at home to check us out on all of our socials and on our website listed here, and check out our audio catalog. Once again, going back to 2013, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, you should be able to find us. There's a lot of great guests looking back over our catalog, and unfortunately, most of them don't have videos waiting to be discovered like this one had. Just the audio, because again, at the time, that's all we needed. But there are great conversations in there that you really don't want to miss. Jim Cummings, Billy West, just to name a few that come right to mind. Susan Bennett, the original voice of Siri. Great conversations in there. So be sure to check those out. And check out evergreenpodcast.com, the Evergreen Podcast Network we've been a part of now for 4, almost going on 5 years. And couldn't be happier to be with them. On there with a lot of other great shows. So check them out as well. I think that's going to do it for this episode. So once again, I want to thank Will for taking time to be on the show. I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch. Be excellent to each other.